Don't look now, but the NFC North is looking pretty good thanks to the Chicago Bears. What's up? I'm John Hansen, FantasyPoints.com. We'll see what the Minnesota Vikings do in the draft, but it sure looks like they are about to get a young franchise quarterback of the future. Team him with Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison, and TJ Hawkinson behind a pretty good O line. And with a very well coached defense under Brian Flores, then you've got the Green Bay Packers, who are a rocket ship, likely still ascending. And of course, the Detroit Lions have already arrived with Ben Johnson returning for another year. And the dude and friends are all happy. So the only team that really hasn't been shaking it up is the Chicago Bears until now. Let's get into what they've done this offseason. We'll start with ridding themselves of Justin Fields, a move that I completely agree with. I totally agreed and understood where they were coming from several years ago when they traded up, gave up a first round pick, by the way, to acquire Fields. Obviously, it's been decade upon decade of quarterback futility in Chicago. They took a shot, new age quarterback, great athlete, didn't work out, wasn't the greatest environment. They didn't necessarily set him up for success, but last year was year three. I think it's fair to compare him to Jalen Hurts, for example. And after year three, what did Jalen Hurts do at the conclusion of his third year? He won the MVP award and he led them to the Super Bowl and played valiantly. And Justin Fields didn't do anything close to that in year number three. Among 48 quarterbacks with at least 100 dropbacks last year, 39th in completion rate, 25th in adjusted completion rate based on drops and throwaways and spikes, 25th in YPA, 5th in sacks allowed, 20th in completion percentage over expectation based on the depth of the target. So he's pretty good throwing the ball down the field, but still mediocre. 43rd in catchable throw percentage, 19th in off target percentage, and 12th most sacks that were deemed his fault. All data per fantasy points data. So they did the right thing in getting rid of Justin Fields. Caleb Williams should be the pick. He will be the pick. He has some blemishes and some issues, but he also could be great. So the Bears absolutely have to take a shot on the 2022 Heisman Trophy winner. I did watch a decent amount of Caleb Williams at USC, and my initial reaction was, oh my God. I mean, what an absolute rocket for an arm talent at the yin yang. I always like to kind of frame it like this with a guy like him, Patrick Mahomes, maybe even a little Jordan Love. There are no limitations. There's not a blade of grass on the field that he can't hit with his arm. So you love that. Big time playmaking gene. We'll get into the negative element with that, but unbelievable playmaker doing just myriad things to extend plays, free himself from defenders, keeping the downfield focus, of course, throwing the football, running with the football as well. The RPO game, quarterback run scenarios will be plentiful. We'll see about whether or not he ever plays under center, which is a little bit of a bone of contention that I have with a lot of these young quarterbacks like Joe Burrow. Like, play under center a little bit more. It's probably not a coincidence that Brock Purdy, for example, lights it up and led the NFL in yards per attempt in 2023. One of the reasons I believe is he plays under center, but we'll see about that with Caleb Williams. The playmaking ability is almost too good because he leans on it a little too much, of course. Does not play within structure, way too much hero ball on film and all that. And a lot of times last year, you watch them and USC, like, oh, they're down, oh, he'll bring them back. And a couple times he didn't. It didn't really go all that well. That one time he was unfortunately seen crying on his mom's lap. That's another story for another day. I mean, that's a huge red flag, though. Seriously, crying on the mom's lap, not to sound like get off my lawn old dude here, but seriously, I mean, I'd say the same thing if I was 25 years old, but still, that's neither here nor there. The other issues, although, it could come into play. We could harken back to that, unfortunately, if things don't go well for Caleb Williams. But I was around him at the combine for what it's worth. I tried to kind of size him up. I mean, the man is certainly not short of confidence. He was very bubbly. Unless he's a great actor, he seemed very friendly, very amicable, and very sure of himself, very comfortable in his own skin. Like absolute alpha vibe when you see this dude walking around and conducting business and carrying himself in person, basically. But a little too much hero ball, a little bit too much reliance on just street ball, basically rando ball. And he might not be a great processor, a little bit of a see it and throw it guy. There are a lot of those dudes on tape, presumably, at least we think, entering the NFL. I thought Justin Herbert was a little bit of too much of a see it and throw it guy. Maybe he still is. Dak Prescott, for example, a little bit of a see it and throw it guy. That's what I call invisible scouting. Like it is there on tape if you really know what you're looking for and you study it. But you don't, I don't know if you know 100% for sure if a given play on tape, whether or not the guy's great in terms of processing. It will come down to seeing him early in the career. Often we could see quickly in the career for what it's worth. A lot of the Lincoln Riley quarterbacks have done pretty well. Kyler Murray stands out. I was a big Kyler Murray person. I did also like Baker, and he's hanging in there. Jalen Hurts has improved in this regard. We just don't know if he will have that level, the Jalen Hurts level of in terms of a desire to be great and embracing football and truly being a leader and all that good stuff. We shall see. But just like they had to take a shot with Justin Fields, now they've got even a better option or more options with the number one pick of the draft. I do believe that they have to take Caleb Williams and give it a shot because, well, they're setting themselves up for success right out of the gate. Obviously, they know what they're doing. Ryan Poles has done a good job. Maybe they only got a ham sandwich in return for Justin Fields, and not even the good ham, the imported stuff, the crappy boiled ham. Neither here nor there. Cut your losses, move on. That's what they've done. Sets them up nicely now for Caleb Williams. You also make the Keenan Allen trade, and talk about good vibes. The man, Keenan Allen, went to Caleb Williams's pro day. That tells you all you need to know about that dude and how mature and serious he is about football and being great. And it's a 1-year rental for Keenan Allen. And you do worry about his advanced age, 32 years old. These guys, it all happens below the waist. The legs give out in some way, shape, or form. He's missed 11 games the last 2 years, mostly late in the year, much to our chagrin in fantasy. Hamstring, negative season there in 2022 with that hamstring, and then that heel problem, which obviously did not go away. But while he was out there, man, he was unbelievable. You want to talk about an alpha fantasy points first read target share, second best in the league, just under 40%. And certainly the target share at 30%, really good. But a 40% target share is pretty ridiculous. He will not get that in Chicago. Certainly with DJ Moore there, not going to get the volume, but the bottom line for Keenan Allen, the Bears this year, and Caleb Williams, the guy can still play. A very solid 2.5 yards per route run. It's just a question of can he stay on the field? But it's a wonderful duo here. Keenan played about 60% of the snaps inside last year. He'll play a lot inside, I'm sure. DJ Moore, more the outside guy, but Moore will be inside too. And in fact, Tyler Scott, their draft pick in 2022, there was a proactive move anticipating Darnell Mooney potentially departing, which he did. So now Tyler Scott, who is a Darnell Mooney clone, steps in there, and he's run inside as well. He is much like Mooney, a speed receiver. He's a 4-4 guy. He is a downfield dude. He is a separatist. He's got very good vertical skills, legitimate deep threat. So you could see Caleb Williams looking at him as a shot play guy. You could see him being when a scramble drill situation for Caleb Williams bombs away with it. You could see Tyler Scott being on the receiving end of those balls. Of course, DJ Moore can get deep as well. I also liked the hire of Shane Waldron. We do have some continuity here, but it's Also weird offensively because we are starting from scratch, which in some ways can be a good thing for a rookie quarterback and for an entire offense to start over with their new franchise quarterback, which they presumably will with Shane Waldron, who did a pretty good job there in Seattle, calling the plays, running that offense. Geno Smith's big year. I know we give Dave Canales, the quarterback's coach that year, a lot of credit for that 30 touchdown season in 2022, but Shane Waldron was running the offense. He was calling the plays. He is a Kyle Shanahan and Sean McVay disciple, so it'll be a West Coast scheme. Get the ball out quickly, define things presumably quickly for Caleb Williams. So we're looking good here. Oh, as we continue to add weapons and kind of break that down. I was never a big Gerald Everett guy because I just don't like the hybrid guys because, well, they suck basically for fantasy. They don't tend to, they make plays, but they don't, you got to be a 3 down guy. You got to do some work in line most of the time these days, although that's changing a little bit, but a little too hybridy, a little too big slotty, if you will. And I don't know, is he all of a sudden an old man? 8.1 yards per reception last year with a 8 out of 4.1, which was 56 out of 60, but still a pretty good tight end too. Waldron, going back to his roots there in Seattle, did play with a lot of multiple tight end sets, even 13 personnel. Of course, that could have been Pete Carroll. Remember Noah Fant, Will Disley, Colby Parkinson. They already have a very good traditional tight end in Cole Kmet, who is not the greatest athlete, but sneaky athlete, absolutely make plays. So you're good at tight end. We're good at receiver. We're also going to likely draft a receiver. I believe it's a very good class. They've got 2 4th-round picks, a number of guys that they could take a shot at in this very deep class, by the way. So I feel pretty good about their ability to continue to add to the receiving core. Maybe someone like Jalen McMillan out of Washington in round 4, who can pretty much do it all. He's a great dude too. By the way, I sat down with him at the combine. Jermaine Burton, 4th-round type. Maybe he'll go earlier, but hard to say in a deep class. But Xavier Worthy, the speed demon from Texas. I wouldn't mind Xavier Legette out of South Carolina. Big ass dude here. I mean, maybe even our guy, Ricky Pearsall out of Florida. They're going to add another receiving threat at a wideout to this arsenal of weapons that, again, is shaping up pretty nicely here under GM Ryan Poles, Matt Eberflus, and first-year coordinator Shane Waldron, who will have, as we continue to look at these Chicago Bears, a pretty darn good stable of running backs. Now, I'm not going to say that DeAndre Swift is going to be great. I did call it last year in that, like, oh, look, it's a contract year. He's playing for his hometown Philadelphia Eagles, St. Joe Prep alumni, if you will, same high school that Marvin Harrison Jr. attended in Philadelphia. Oh, yeah, he'll do well. And he did. But, of course, I think he had, 55 more touches than he had in any of his previous years, yet he was underwhelming because the passing game role dried up. They presumably they couldn't quit Kenny Gainwell. They put him out there. But here's the problem. You go, and granted, I think the Bear line is going to be good. We'll get to that in the moment to close out this video. And it's actually one of the things I'm most excited about, potentially the O-line. But we're going to have a drop-off going from Philadelphia to Chicago. Swift was 5th in overall rushing yards, okay, 1,049. He got the ball. 8th in yards before contact per attempt among 49 RBs who had 100-plus carries. Great. That's also, in large part, a function of that O-line. Only 40th in yards after contact per attempt, which doesn't really reflect well on his ability to take full control of the backfield. I could argue that Khalil Herbert is just as good as an early down back as DeAndre Swift at this juncture. But hey, not complaining when I'm looking at the entirety of the Bears roster and their running back core and their running back room. Very, very, very good depth. I like Roschon Johnson a lot. He can do pretty much anything you need. Very good in pass protection, good short yardage guy, bigger, durable guy, very serious young man. So they're in good hands with this threesome. But here is what I think. Let's again presume that it's Caleb Williams at 1. This is where you would just really put the cherry on top, as far as I'm concerned, for the Bears and their off season. We are greedy in the fantasy world. I'm a greedy bastard. I want teams to ignore defense. I know they have pass rush needs, probably looking to get a corner in the draft, linebacker, all that. Pass rush probably number 1, but I say let's go O-line at 9 overall. Let's take Penn State's Ola Fashanu, or who apparently was teammate with Caleb Williams in high school. That would be awesome. Or you could take Washington tackle Troy Fotanu, who is considered to be a top 10, top 12 pick. Solve your left tackle problem for the next 10 years, perhaps. Now you're moving Braxton Jones into more of the swing tackle role, along with Tevin Jenkins, very good player. You might have a top 15 offensive line, maybe even a little bit better than that. If they go left tackle and that dude pans out, would be fantastic. Look no further, by the way, to what the Chicago or the Detroit Lions have done. And I was all about this when they were doing it over the years, the last 6-7 years. Taylor Decker, number 1 pick. Frank the Tank Ragnow, number 1 pick. Penei Sewell, number 1 pick. Not a surprise that Jahmyr Gibbs was awesome and David Montgomery was awesome and Jared Goff's career's resurrected. It's all about that O-line. So go Chicago, O-line at 9, and you'll have my vote for, breakout offense of the year, ascending offense of the year. At the very least, you'll have my support and encouragement, because you, Chicago Bears, did a hell of a job setting up your number 1 pick, the number 1 pick of the draft, Caleb Williams, for success. That is my look at the Bears and where we're at right now. We'll wait till the draft. We'll see if it's Caleb Williams. It will be, but we thank you for liking, viewing the video, going all this way. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe, help us out with all the algorithms and the like, and we'll catch you next time at fantasypoints.com.